Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for today, March 4th. A couple of things before we have our opening comments. Just want to remind all of our virtual attendees that to unmute your microphones when it's time to speak. And then for those of you commissioners in the chambers, remember to speak into your microphones so that you can be heard and for minute taking. And with that, we'll go ahead and ask for the opening comments.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those at Century 2, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representative to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room or the GoToMeeting comments box. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to district court.
Thank you. At this time, we will approve the minutes from our February 18th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any discussion on that? Yes, Mr. Foster?
Just had a few corrections. I'll pass along to staff.
Thank you very much. And I show Shane Gross to be the only one that was absent at that meeting. So how many do we have today? How many commissioners? We have 14? 13, okay. So all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And we have, is Shane on? And Shane will be abstaining from this.
No, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, the motion carries 12-01. We will go through the agenda here, starting off with the subdivision committee recommendations. First item we have is subdivision 2020-57, final plat of Harbor Isle Commercial First. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No one at Century 2.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that on consent. Next case is subdivision 2020-58, final plat of Harbor Isle Commercial Second. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that one on consent. Next item is subdivision 21004, one-step final plat for Hopkins Addition. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case?
Mr. Chairman, I had a staff question on that item.
Okay. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No one at Century 2.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that one on consent, but we'll have a staff question first.
Neil, I was just curious, should it be stated for the record that the electric co-op withdrew the request for that 10-foot easement going onto the property? Should that go in our record here?
That would be a good idea, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you want us to take that separately, the motion separately then, so that can be added, or just include that in the motion? Which way would you prefer?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve 2-1 and 2-2.
Okay, we have a motion to approve 2122.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Miles. That would be Bill Johnson, to approve items 2122. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. And Mr. Foster, do you want to make the motion for this?
Certainly, I'd make a motion for item 2.3 that we approve it, subject to the addition or recognizing that the electric co-op did withdraw the request for the 10-foot easement.
Second.
And so the motion has been made. It's been by Mr. Foster, second by Mr. Nix, to approve item 2.3 with the additional information with the co-op. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries 13-0. Next, we have the vacation items. Vacation 2105, city vacation of a platted utility easement at Jabera Airport. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No one at Century 2.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this vacation case? Hearing none, we'll take that on consent. Next, we have vacation 21006, city vacation of a portion of a 20-foot utility easement and building setback located at 7330 West 33rd Street North. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case?
Mr. Chairman, I got to abstain from that
Okay.
item.
Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No one at Century 2.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that on consent.
Move to approve agenda items 3-1 and 3-2.
Well,
Second.
Look, let's take them
We
separately
do
since
take
we have to have an abstention on one of those, please.
Okay, move to approve agenda item number 3-1.
It's been moved by Ms. Miles and second by Mr. Florence to approve item 3.1. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 13-0.
Now I move to approve agenda item 3-2.
Thank you.
And second.
And it was second, Ms. Miles made the motion, second by Mr. Florence, to approve item 3.2. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And abstentions?
Yes.
So the motion carries 12-0-1. Moving on to public hearing items here. We will take item 4.1 and we will consider it at the same time that we consider item 4.5. And it appears as though 4.2 has been withdrawn. So we'll move on to the next case, which is a CUP 21002, city CUP to create new Kellogg Drive, Heather CUP DP 356, located at 8030 and 8144 East Kellogg. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to hear that item.
Okay, we will hear this case. Next case is zoning 2102, city zone change from SF5 to TF3, located at 777 and 781 North St. Paul. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case?
I'd like to hear that item as well.
Okay. We will hear this case. We will hear 4.5. And 4.6 is been deferred. And we will hear 5.1. And at this time, I would like to recess the Planning Commission and open up the BZA meeting. First up on the BZA agenda is the approval of minutes from the February 8th BZA meeting.
Move to approve.
It's been moved
Second.
and it's been seconded by Mr. McKay to approve the minutes of the BZA meeting for February 18th, and I show Shane Gross to be absent. So any questions on the motion? Yes, Mr. Foster?
I'll just pass a few typos on to staff.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. And we have one abstention. Next up, we have the BZA 2020-001 that had been deferred from February 18th. It's a variance for 3 new signs on a new apartment building located at 3607 East 17th. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No one at Century 2.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? BZA for 3607 East 17th. I can't tell if somebody wants to hear it or not.
Mr. Chairman, it appears that we're getting feedback from caller number 3. One of the individuals who's called in, their speaker is so loud that their phone is picking it up and it's repeating it through the system.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, we'll take this one on consent.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from item 2.
Okay. This next one, or this one that we were on?
Yeah, item 2.
Okay, all right. Moving on to the next case, we have BZA 21005. It's a county variance to reduce the front building setback located at 7756 North Ridge Road. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case?
Mr. Chairman, I did have a staff question on that item.
Okay. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No one at Century 2.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take the staff question. Matt is on.
Yep, I'm happy to answer a question.
Yep.
Matt, my question is, there appear to be some conflicts with existing driveways and connections there, but I suspect those are independent of the setback question here, but will those conflicts of drives get cleaned up as those road improvements are made?
Yeah, those are independent of the setback issue. Are you talking about along 77th Street or along Ridge Road?
The diagram I was looking at looked like they were perhaps conflicts both ways.
Are you looking at the site plan that was included in there?
Yes. But if it's part of a different deal, if it doesn't relate to the setbacks, then we just ignore the question.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that doesn't relate to the setback issue. I'd be happy to look into it, though.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move for approval for items 2 and 3.
I'm sorry, Rob?
I move for approval of items 2 and items 3.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Can we take those separately, please? We have an
Okay,
abstention on
item-
item 2. So it's been moved by Mr. Hartman to approve item 2,
Second?
and it's
And I'll
been
second.
seconded by Ms. Fox. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. And abstentions, we have 1. I move that we approve item 3.
Second.
It's been moved by Green, second by Mr. Foster to approve item 3 on the BZA agenda. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. This time, we will adjourn the BZA meeting and join back into the Planning Commission agenda, and we are ready to hear item 4.3, CUP 2020-02.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. Philip Ziebenbergen with planning staff. CUP 2102, the applicant is submitted the request to create the new Kellogg Drive Heather Community Unit Plan, which will be DP 356. The property is zone limited commercial and is going to remain that way. There's not a zone change associated with this request. Property is 1.74 acres and is generally located on the north side of East Kellogg. You can see there it's just east of Rock Road, right by Town East Mall. A commercial property that is less than 6 acres is not required to have a CUP. However, the applicants want to form the CUP to create a cohesive development plan for multiple parcels by addressing parking, landscaping, access, and signage. The site currently has 2 existing structures. There's a vacant restaurant building that was a Denny's and a title loan establishment. The easternmost portion of the site is undeveloped. The site consists of 5 remnants of platted lots that have all had portions of them taken for right-of-way when the Kellogg Freeway was constructed. The CUP will create 2 parcels. Parcel 1 is going to be on the western side. If you want to move to the site plan, Paul. Parcel 1 will be 0.98 acres in size. It's where the existing restaurant structure will be located. It's the western portion of the CUP. Parcel 2 is 0.76 acres in size and is the eastern half that has a title loan structure and the undeveloped land. Both parcels have a maximum building coverage of 30%, maximum floor area ratio of 0.4, and a maximum building height of 45 feet. This is more restrictive than the Unified Zoning Code requires for LC limited commercial zoning without a CUP. Without a CUP, the only lot development standards that are on the building is that the building is within the buildable setbacks and the building height could not exceed 80 feet. So they're actually looking to be a little bit more restrictive. But really, when you look at it, when they have 5 remnant parcels or 5 remnant lots, it's just kind of haywire instead of just 2 nice, clean CUP lots instead. The CUP is proposing a 25-foot setback along the front, a 20-foot setback along the east property line where Heather Road is, a 0 or 5-foot setback along the west property line. That's something that's dictated by the zoning code with LC zoning. If in a CUP, there's a setback requirement if it's next to right-of-way. If not, then the zoning code takes over. For LC zoning, you can have a 0-foot interior side setback, or if there's a setback there, it needs to be at least 5 feet. So really, they can choose if they want to build to the lot line. If they're not going to build to the lot line, then any building on the west side would have to be 5 feet off the property line. And then a rear setback along, a rear setback of 25 feet along the north property line. It is proposed that trash enclosures are permitted within that rear setback so long as they are placed as close to the setback line as possible. The CUP language that was provided, I apologize, I should have updated that paragraph in the staff report to mention that the trash enclosure has to be within no closer to the rear property line than 20 feet. So basically a 20-foot setback for a trash enclosure, but building setbacks for any new structure would have to be 25 feet. There was some negotiation back and forth with the applicant about the setbacks on the property. And that was kind of a compromise of them trying to figure out how their site was going to work, considering the shallow depth of it. It's a pretty shallow lot. That if they were going to have everything in here to a 25-foot setback or greater, that was going to really infringe on their ability to develop it. And so it was kind of a compromise to let the trash enclosure be within the setback as long as it was, within the first 5 feet of it. Typically, CUPs require 35-foot setbacks along right-of-way or property lines that are abutting a residential district. However, like I said, number one, there's 2 structures already on it that don't fit the front setback line. These setbacks would be for any new construction, and so when you think of, number one, it's zone limited commercial. If it was going to be that way, it'd only be a 25-foot setback along the front. There's already existing commercial structure there that wouldn't adhere to a 35-foot setback anyway. And then you consider the shallow depth of the lot that, a little bit of a reduced setback was appropriate in the area. And like I said before, Most of these structures were not this close to the property line when they were built. When the freeway expanded, they got significantly closer to the property line, not on their own volition. The property that is undeveloped on the eastern side, actually, I believe, used to be in McDonald's, and through the whole process, like, the building even just went. It was there before Kellogg was expanded. After Kellogg was expanded, it was not there anymore. So, one of the big hearts of the issue is one of the reasons why they wanted to submit the CUP is for the signage. The CUP is proposing one 60-foot pole sign and one 14-foot monument sign per parcel, so that would include 4 total signs for the entire property. With a total area signage of 600 square feet for the entire CUP. Section 24.04 of the sign code permits 0.8 square feet per linear foot of signage for any linear feet of frontage of right-of-way. So this gives them a little bit more. This is approximately a 600-foot linear foot property that gives them a little bit more sign square footage than the code allows, but not by much. When you think of 0.8 square feet per linear foot versus 1 square foot per linear foot, it's not that much difference. The height of the sign code restricts it to 25 feet with the possibility of going 35 feet if certain conditions are met. However, there are nearby on-site signs that have been approved to exceed that 25-foot limit, and there's a brief review of them. Town East Mall, which is on the west side of Rock Road, permits one 65-foot sign, one 60-foot sign, both of those being along the Kellogg Freeway. And then Eastgate Shopping Center, which is on the south side of Kellogg, directly across Kellogg from this property, was recently allowed to have 2 60-foot signs along the Kellogg frontage road. And so those 2 60-foot pole signs are in character with permitted commercial on-site signs for shopping centers or commercial development immediately in the area. General Provision 5 states that the parking on this site will be per the parking standards of the zoning code. Provision 10 states that there will be a pedestrian walk system through connecting the buildings as well as the existing sidewalks along the Kellogg frontage road. Access will be with the 2 existing driveways and the one on Heather Road. There will be cross-lot access between the sites. The site currently has a 6-foot screening fence along the north property line abutting the residential properties. This fence shall be maintained by the owners of the CUP now. It looks like in the past, given the hodgepodge design and color and different wood treatments of the fence right now, is probably constructed by the property owners of the homes. Most likely because this was probably zoned commercially before the screening standards that are in place right now actually were there. And so because of this CUP, we're going to be, one of our recommendations is that the onus of maintaining this 6-foot screening fence now is on the commercial property and not the residential property owners anymore. The applicants are proposing the construction of a 6-foot screening wall on a parcel-by-parcel basis when new construction happens. And so instead of putting the burden on them to say, you need to put one up now, when it's been in this existing state as it is right now, the onus is on them that when they want to build a new building, say they, on the east side by Heather Road, they want to build a new building, then they build the wall on parcel 2. And they can't get a certificate of occupancy for that building until the wall is built. So really they need to build them at the same time as the building. In addition, the applicant will plant 1 shade tree or equivalent ornamental evergreen tree per 40 linear feet along the rear property line of the affected parcel as well. So basically coming up to the CUP standard of a 6-foot wall, as well as adhering now to the landscape ordinance for a landscape buffer on the rear property line, again, when new construction is built. Because it could stay the way it is. It's been this way for quite a while. And so as new development occurs, then bringing the property up to new standards. Properties surrounding this, the properties to the north, if you want to go to the zoning map, go up, I think, 1 or 2. Properties to the north are SF5 single-family residential. It's the Bonnie Bray neighborhood. Properties to the east are limited commercial. It's a hotel. Property to the south across the Kellogg Freeway is limited commercial. It's the Eastgate Shopping Center. Property to the west is not zoned. It's considered city right-of-way. It's the city's stormwater lift station for that portion of Kellogg. So as stormwater drains on the, below grade freeway, it has to go somewhere and not become, Rock Road Lake underneath the bridge. In 1959, the subject property was originally platted into lots 7 and 8 of the Ruth's edition. Ever since then, it's been kind of split apart with different replats for Taco Grande and McDonald's and the Mark 8 edition. The site is served by water and sewer. Heather Road is a two-way local dead-end street with no sidewalks. It has a barrier prohibiting traffic from moving into the Bonnie Bray neighborhood, much like the Bonnie Bray Street we talked about several planning commissions ago. When they built the freeway, they cut off that commercial access into the neighborhood. East Kellogg Drive is a 3-lane, one-way frontage road for East Kellogg, and there is a sidewalk on the north side of the property. The comprehensive plan identifies this site as both acceptable for new residential and commercial. New residential is described as encompassing areas that are likely will be redeveloped by 2035, with uses predominantly found in the residential categories. Pockets of major industrial commercial uses will likely be developed within the area as well, based on market-driven factors and location. The commercial category is described as encompassing areas that reflect full diversity of commercial development intensities typically found in an urban municipality. Major destination areas like centers and corridors containing concentrations of commercial and office uses with high volumes of traffic would most likely be located at major arterials or highways. Overall, the CUP fits the spirit and intent of the applicable plans and policies of the City of Wichita. Staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions that the site be developed in substantial conformance to the revised development guidelines and the general provisions of the CUP. The only addition that staff had to the CUP regulations was including the language that the existing 6-foot screening fence on the north property line be maintained by the owners of the CUP until the point that a screening wall be constructed if new construction were to happen. So if they build a wall, this fence can stay there because really the residents behind them built it. But until a wall is built, that screening fence has to be maintained by the commercial development. And then we have our 2 other standard languages of recording documents to the Register of Deeds and providing us copies of the CUP for review and approval. Our findings for this recommendation are based on the character of the neighborhood. It's been zone limited commercial for some time. There's a considerable amount of commercial zoning around there. It's staff's opinion that the measures of the CUP of buffering new construction from the residential properties on the north will help mitigate negative impacts on the commercial property might have on those nearby residential properties. The suitability for the subject property for which it has been restricted, the site is currently zone limited commercial. Any type of development these individuals want to do could already happen in terms of the types of uses that they want. They're just looking for a little bit more cohesive development and a little bit more ability to have the signage along Kellogg Frontage Road, from my understanding. Putting in the restriction of the CUP actually make development on the site even a little bit more restrictive. We talked about that with the height is more restrictive. We did give some leeway on the setbacks, but so really it's just a matter of it's more cohesive development. It could be commercial uses now. It could be commercial uses in the future. Portions of the property are currently development. As I mentioned before, there was a lot that happened on this site when the Kellogg Freeway was developed. We talked about the conformance to the comprehensive plan, and we feel that the proposed use does not have anticipated or substantial detrimental impacts on community facilities. I can go through the site pictures for you. I'm going to skip to the end here. This is looking northeast. There's the Denny's, and you can see the cash loans. That's pretty much right up on the property line. This is looking on the west half, looking to the east. Next picture. This is looking the other direction. This is the Denny's restaurant, and the building with kind of the dome shape on it. That's the lift station on the city property. Next picture. This is further back. I'm standing by the Super 8 Motel. This is the undeveloped portion of the property right at Heather Road, looking to the northwest. You can see that 6-foot screening fence and how it's kind of different colors and different shades. Typically indicative of it being constructed by each individual property owner. Next picture. This is looking the other direction. That's that Super 8 Motel along the Kellogg frontage road. Next picture. Kind of the same thing looking along the Kellogg frontage road. You can see the commercial use across the street. Next picture. Looking straight south at the Eastgate Shopping Mall, that's one of the 60-foot signs that is there directly across the highway. Next picture. This is looking to the southwest, kind of over top of the intersection with Rock Road, the commercial uses that are over there, as well as the highway signs that you can see from the frontage road. And I think we have one more picture. It's kind of a zoomed in picture from the site, but you can see the Town East Mall sign. That's either the 60 or the 65-foot sign that Town East Mall has along the Kellogg frontage road. And I can stand for any questions you have.
Questions for staff? Mr. Foster?
Philip, I want to make sure I understand requirements for the solid screening there and the buffering on the back. Is the broad concept that for the applicant to meet the screening requirement, the existing fence, they're going to maintain it? I understand that. But let's say it blew down. Does that mean they're going to build fencing or a wall or something on their property to then bring into compliance the required screening?
The only time a wall is required to be constructed is if there's new commercial construction on a parcel. And so say the wood fence blows down, this property owner would be required to put up a new 6-foot fence.
That's the applicant?
Applicant, yes.
Okay, so then they would be required to put up a fencing on
Right, they're
their
required to
property.
maintain that screening as it is now until the point that new construction happens, and then a wall is required to be constructed.
So let's say the Denny's gets readapted or one of those buildings get readapted, would that portion then not be required to do the wall until such time the building's tore down or something like that?
That is correct.
Okay, I don't think that meets the intent of the ordinance then. But anyway, I'll talk about that when we get to voting on it. Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess I read that differently. To piggyback on what Mr. Foster was saying, it's just new construction, not reconstruction of the building?
Well, new construction, so obviously a brand new building, but if, if a new restaurant goes into Denny's, they're not reconstructing anything, they're moving into an existing constructed building.
So theoretically, we could have a solid screening wall for 50 feet and then a wood fence for 50?
There's only 2 parcels, and so if, say, a new building is built on the eastern portion where there's no building right now, then that parcel, the whole rear property line of that parcel would have a wall. And so, yes, you could have a situation where only half the property has a wall and the other half does not.
Okay.
That is a condition that has the ability to change through this process, if
Okay.
you guys see fit.
All right, and then I see where the certificate of occupancy would not be issued if the landscaping has not been planted. In the staff report, the certificate of occupancy would not be issued if the wall was not constructed, but I don't see that in the CUP, unless I've overlooked that language.
We'll have to take a look at that. I apologize for that issue there. We could take a look at that and make any amendments we need to.
All right, thanks. Mr. Nix, did you have a question?
Well, we probably don't know whether those fences and their multiple owners, I mean, they probably all built them themselves, did they not? They probably constructed them on their own property, not They may be on the center line, I don't know. My guess would be they'd be on their property. So we're gonna go in and repair their fences that are on their property if they would happen to be blown down, like Mr. Foster said?
Well, the idea behind that is, I agree with you, most likely these property owners build their own privacy fences in the back, just based on how old the relationship is between these commercial properties and the residential ones. If, for example, this was a brand-new commercial development rezoned to commercial next to residential, it would be required of the commercial property to maintain a 6-foot solid screening fence. So it's the idea that there's already a 6-foot solid screening fence there, and instead of it being on the homeowner's onus now, kind of bringing that level of screening requirement to in compliance with the code now of a commercial property owner needing to maintain that screening. So even if it's on the property or slightly in front of it, like that screening still has to be there. And it would be on the commercial developer to maintain that.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Is there a,
Warren.
I'm looking at the drawing here, there's easement along that back line. Does the applicant have the ability to go onto the private property owner's land to complete the building of this concrete?
Well, the wall would not be able to go on the private property owners.
But if you're building it up to the line, in order to build it, you would need to step over onto the property owner's line.
Potentially.
Is there an easement that allows them to do that, or do they do that by negotiation, or?
This probably can't be said officially, but in conversations that I've had, both with this case with neighbors in the Bonnie Brae neighborhood and that vacation case we had multiple planning commissions ago, they would welcome the construction of a wall. They would throw a party.
That would be my assumption.
For,
yeah.
If I could say that tongue in cheek, they would be ecstatic to have somebody coming to build a wall separating the two properties. So that's not necessarily in an official capacity, but just with the sentiment that we've kind of gathered of the relationship between the Bonnie Brae neighborhood and these commercial properties to their south, they would welcome a more substantial structure.
That would be my assumption, but occasionally you have somebody says, well, if you have to build that fence and you want to get on my property, I'm going to charge you a fee.
Right.
To come
I mean,
over
it could be that they might, I don't know exactly how it would work of, the placement of the fence far enough into the commercial property that they have room to construct it,
Okay.
Any other questions for Philip from the commission? Hearing none, I see we have the agent for the applicant here. If you could state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Kim Edgington, 2532 North Cardinal Drive, Wichita, Kansas, 67204. Thank you. I am representing the developer for this property, and appreciate Philip working with us throughout this process. We've done quite a bit of negotiating, and we are in agreement completely with all of staff comments. We did try to work with this property. It is a difficult piece just because it is so shallow. So we felt like kind of the addition of the concrete screening wall plus the landscaping that we have volunteered to do took care of some of those issues. We are certainly in agreement that we will not have a certificate of occupancy issued without that wall being constructed. And it will be constructed in a minimum of 300-foot sections. Each one of those parcels is give or take 300 feet. So that would be the minimum that would be constructed at any one time. And we will certainly work with those neighbors to the north. From our experience, they definitely would welcome the construction of that wall, and we will work with them to get whatever permission necessary to get that constructed and make sure that it is all on our property. But in the meantime, maintain that fence that is there, since, I mean, it has been in that configuration with those commercial buildings on those lots for decades now. So, but we will take on that responsibility to make sure that those fences are properly maintained. And I would be glad to stand for any questions that you might have, though.
Mr. Foster?
Ms. Edgington, let's say a fence does blow down on one of the adjacent properties. In order to be compliant with the screening requirement, is it your understanding that you would go on to the adjacent property's owner and rebuild it, or would it be easier for you to build it on the applicant's property? How would that get done so that the screening is met?
Well, our intent is that we will work with that adjacent property owner to rebuild the fence in its existing location. I mean, we don't want, you know, as Philip said, it is kind of a hodgepodge of some different materials, different colors. So, you know, we will make sure that it matches what's in there, you know, existing, so that that particular property owner is treated on an individual basis, and repaired in the like manner.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the agent? Kim, I just have the one. I've got a comment and a question, but it is the applicant's intent to have the whole back property line with the screening wall, not just because I think the way it's stated is that new construction before you could have a certificate of occupancy, there would need to be the masonry wall constructed. But the west parcel, there may not be any new construction. It could just be reconstruction. So I just want to understand that whole parcel, both parcels will have, the intent is to have the screening wall.
Well, I think we maybe are getting into a little bit of a murky situation, because if new construction only happens on the eastern parcel, then that would trigger the requirement for the wall construction for the eastern parcel. It wouldn't affect the wall requirement for the western parcel.
Is there a situation where that would be constructed, or?
Well, say the Denny's were scraped or remodeled beyond 50%, then both of those situations would trigger the requirement for the wall to be constructed.
Okay, thank you.
On that parcel.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, was that the reconstruction, more than likely, any reconstruction of that Denny's property would eventually would require the screening wall to be built. The comment that I have, though, is I want to compliment both you and the staff for a well thought out CUP. All the situations that arise during that, it appears as though you have both done a very good job of working through those issues ahead of time, and I would like to commend you for that. So,
thank you.
Is there any other comments or questions on this? Did you have anything else to say, Kim?
No, I just, again, I want to thank Philip, because we have worked quite at length on this to make a difficult piece of ground, hopefully a better situation in the future, and that will work better with the neighborhood to the north of it. So thank you again to him.
At this point, we'll open it up to, are there any questions, anybody that wants to address this case in Century 2? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to address this case? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Move to approve item 4.3.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Bill Johnson to approve per staff comments.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Foster has a question.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, there was one photograph, and I don't know, Paul, if you can find it, but it was one that showed the 60-foot signage.
Of Eastgate,
Yeah.
it's towards the end, keep going. There we go.
What dawns on me is we've got a unique situation here. When we've looked at these going to a 60-foot signage, you've not had residential abutted closely to the commercial property. And so we've had a distance of buffering. On this one, we don't. The neighbors are right up against it. So this is a good example of somebody looking out their back door going to a 60-foot signage. So my suggestion would be the landscape ordinance provides for two different spacings on trees. It's either 30 feet or 40 feet. I would suggest, and there's not a lot of screening there right now in terms of vegetation, so I would suggest we up that to at least every 30 feet for the tree buffering there as opposed to the 40 feet, just to help with the issue of going to the higher signage.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Johnson?
I'd like to just support staff. These houses are awful close to Kellogg, which that's an unusual situation. We don't see a lot of homes that close to Kellogg either, but they get to deal with that. So whether 30 foot or 40 foot, they can still see around a tree.
I'm sorry, what now?
30-foot spacings or 40-foot spacings, you can still see around them. So
Okay.
I just didn't stay at the original motion.
Okay. So, and I know, Ms. Fox, you were the second on that, so you're good with the original motion then as it is, so,
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
One quick question for clarification is that during the comments, it was cited that should reconstruction or renovation occur beyond 50%, that would trigger the wall requirement and that's the intent. I'm just curious if the commission would like to have that language in the CUP.
I think that's a building requirement, and getting a building permit once it becomes over 50%.
Mr. McKay and or Mr. McKay?
Who else?
Well, JR was gonna come up and address that, but
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good afternoon. J.R. Cox, Metropolitan Planning Department. For the record, there is a non-conforming clause in our Unified Zoning Code that has certain allowances, and when you pass those allowances, the requirements become effective. 50% value, 30% expansion, so that is true. Given the comments we've heard today, it would be very clear if it were put into the CUP document, because as it's worded now, it simply says new construction, which I, being the zoning administrator, would probably be inclined to interpret as an addition. Interior remodel wouldn't count. It'd have to be an actual physical addition to that property, and of course, a brand new build. That would trigger it too. So does that help?
okay. Yes, Mr. McKay?
Well, I'd like to, I agree with the motion, but I'd like to amend it and add what we've been talking about here, that both the applicant has agreed, new construction, 50% of existing construction, and a minimum of 300 feet. And I think on this particular piece of property, that should be included in what we're talking about doing.
Now,
Because they volunteered that, did you not, Kim?
Yes.
And I think just for a point of clarification from what JR was saying was that it's 50% of construction or 30% of the value.
Or 50% value, 30%.
Yeah, 50%, yeah.
But I heard this was a 300 square foot is what you were saying?
No, he was
No,
talking
300
about 300
there's-
lineal feet of fence.
They said that 600 feet approximately the ground is. And then when they put up a fence, they won't do 50 feet, they're gonna do a minimum of 300 feet. Which means they'll do half of the lot at a time.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
So the verbiage would be 50% of square footage or 30% of the value?
50% of value, 30% floor area.
Okay,
Square
all right,
footage.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Right.
You got it.
I had the percentages right.
You had 'em right.
So are you okay?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and this, the motion in the second is good. Is there any, yes, Mr. Foster?
I'll go ahead and offer a substitute motion, and that would be to, for approval based upon just what we talked about, but go to the 30-foot on center to get a couple more trees in there for the neighbors relative to the, allowing them to go to the 60-foot height on the signage.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
You'll second that?
I will.
Okay, so the substitute motion includes the original motion, but then we have a substitute to add trees every 30 feet instead of 40 feet. So we'll take the substitute motion first. If there are any other questions on the motion? Hearing none, and if we could have a poll taken, please.
Yes, sir, you bet.
And this is on the substitute motion.
On the substitute motion, Green,
Nay?
Bill Johnson,
Nay.
McKay,
no,
Gross,
No.
Fox,
No.
Dool,
No.
Blick,
No.
Nix,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes?
Warren,
No.
Joe Johnson is absent, Miles,
No.
Hartman,
No.
Florence,
Yes.
Motion fails 10-3,
that's correct,
or 3-10, I guess.
310.
So we'll go to the motion. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in, we'll take it by roll call again, just to be sure.
Okay, on the original, Green,
Aye?
Bill Johnson,
Yes.
McKay,
yes,
Gross,
Aye.
Fox,
Yes.
Yes.
Dool,
Yes.
Blick,
Aye.
Nix,
No.
Foster,
No?
Warren,
Aye.
Joe Johnson is absent, Miles,
Aye.
Hartman,
Yes.
Florence,
No.
Motion carries 10-3. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to our next case, we have Kathy Morgan, and this is 2021-002.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a zone request from SF5 to TF3, and we have the zoning map on the screen right now. And as you can see, these lots in this neighborhood are 260 feet deep, and each lot is 75 feet wide. So we've got an area that's 150 by 260. The applicant is requesting this change to build 5 duplexes. If you will notice, they will be required to plat this property, and the site plan is attached on your back page. Could you go to the site plan, please? Okay. Okay, we didn't get it in there then. Sorry. Okay, on the site plan, you will notice there are two duplexes that face or are at the front of the lots along St. Paul, and then there are three that are at the west end of the lot, the two lots. And they have, on the site plan, they are showing a 20% reduction in the building setbacks on the front and the interior sides and the rear setbacks. So that will be done at time of platting. This has been to the DAB board, and it was approved by a 4-3 vote. There are several neighbors that are concerned from the standpoint of drainage and traffic along St. Paul. This is typical, this zone change is typical of what we've done recently with SF5 to TF3 zoning, in that we have included a protective overlay that would regulate architectural control, the materials, window transparency, roof design, how the garage addresses the street, that type of thing. And this is part of our, well, the city initiative to do the Wichita Places for People urban infill to create more use of vacant lots within our residential neighborhoods and potentially increase the density, but not significantly. You'll see, Paul, go to the use map, the land use map. There you go. So you will see that this is an area that has been identified as residential. So that includes duplex and some lower density multifamily uses. Let's see what else is there. So staff, parking will be provided with attached garages like most of the duplexes we've looked at. So presuming it's a 2-car garage, it will have the 2 interior parking spaces, and then the drive apron will accommodate 2 more spaces. So there won't be any on-street parking along St. Paul. And as you looked at the site plan in your packet, the applicant is proposing a street, a 32-foot wide street that goes back into the property. Oh, there we go. And that center street that goes, or the street that goes north and south, there is a sewer line right through there. So they can't build over that anyway. So I would point that out. So staff is recommending approval of the zone change based on they're having to plat. It's unknown at this time if that street will be accepted by the city, but the applicant has said they would make that a private street to address the parking issues and also that sewer line that runs north and south through the two lots. And so staff is recommending approval with the protective overlay conditions. And I will stand for any questions. Well, let's go through the slides right quick. Okay, so this is looking at the site from St. Paul Street, looking a little bit southwest. There is currently that green building is some kind of a, I believe it was a garage type building that was left over. Next. Oops. This is looking directly kind of in the middle of the site. Next. This is looking south along St. Paul, and there's that mailbox. It's actually at 777 North St. Paul next. Okay, and here's the driveway that currently exists that goes into 777 next. This is looking northwest at the site, not southwest. Northwest at the site, you can see there's currently a 6-foot wood privacy fence. Next. This is looking along the east side of St. Paul, looking south. Next. And that's it. So now I'll take any questions.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Foster?
Chairman?
Kathy, my question, you started to mention about the street, so it would be a private street.
Yeah, if at the time of platting, Public Works chooses not to accept the dedication, then yes, the street would be, the applicant would take care of the streets.
Should there be a condition in here that if indeed it is a private street, that it's going to get maintained? Whether they have to form however they want to set it up, they may have to form a homeowners association or something, but that street's got to be maintained.
Yeah, we've got a protective overlay, so I don't see that there would be a problem with adding language that says should the city not accept the streets at the time of platting, then the property owner would be responsible for the construction and maintenance, or maintenance, because they'll be responsible for constructing.
And I would point out that we have Jeff Van Zant from City Laws on the line.
I can't understand you very well with your mask on.
We have Jeff Van Zant with City Legal online, so perhaps he can help weigh in on that question.
Yes, that would be great.
Mr. Van Zant? Are you muted?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry. Yes, that is something that could be added to the protective overlay if it is a private street, that somebody has to be responsible for the maintenance of it. That is the big question, and Mr. Foster pointed it out that, you know, if these properties are sold, you're going to have a bunch of different owners, and it would be hard to specify, you know, which one of those and how much each one would be responsible for that maintenance. So that is something that could be addressed later, but it is kind of a problem area.
Okay. Yes, Mr. McKay?
Jeff, could those be done with a
Yes.
private drive rather than a private street?
Could they be done with what?
Private drive rather than a private street,
Yes, they could. They could.
which would cut down on the amount of dedication and give them more area for parking on the main street. And then that would be not near as much maintenance, because you can build a drive, not the city code, I mean, not like city code streets are, with curb and guttering and the whole shooting match.
Right.
So I would suggest if they're gonna do that they do that, rather than call it a proposed street, call it proposed private drive.
Okay.
That might take care of the sewer easement in the back also. Or in the middle there, where it is.
Yes, and that'd be best accommodated through the platting process.
Okay, I can add that condition under the protective overlay.
Mr. Warren?
Do we have if we do it with private drive, do we have the ability to require a homeowners association that would set in place the responsibility for maintaining the drive? You got a private drive, if this could possibly be sold off in 5 different units at some point, you've got a shared driveway. Something needs to be in place to.
Deed restriction.
Deed restriction? Okay, as long as that something is put into place that maintains that, I don't have a problem with that.
And that would that be done at time of platting, Jeff? Or could we add that language?
Yes, I don't know if we could require a HOA. It would be a voluntary agreement by the applicant, but we could impose a deed restriction that would be done at the time of plating as well.
At the time of plating, or do we want that in the CUP?
The protective overlay.
Or the protective overlay, sorry.
Yeah, I would put it in the protective overlay that specifies that if each of these lots are ownership is sold, that in that transfer, there's a deed restriction imposed.
Okay. All right.
The developer can create a homeowners association. We can't, but they can.
Right.
Right.
Thanks, John. Any other questions from the commission for staff?
Chairman Green, my question was answered. That was doing a private drive, or do we need to have it posted as a dead end because it's going east or north and south, just for people that got turned around or something like that? But I think that question's been answered. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to address this case?
No comment from Century 2.
Thank you.
The applicant?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let the applicant. Is the applicant online? And if you could state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Kirk.
Okay, I had a little bit of problem getting on, but I'm here now. Kurt Richards, my address is 7540 West North Wind in Wichita, Kansas. I really don't have too much to add, really. I mean, you guys answered or talked about a lot of the questions. Obviously, April 12th, it is going to plat, and then we'll find out if it can be city streets. Well, we submitted April 12th, but obviously it'll take some time. I think April 29th. Garver's doing our engineering. And then if it doesn't want to be, if it can't be a city street, then we are willing to do private. And we have several HOAs in place on other places throughout Wichita. So if we did do it private, we'd be willing to do a HOA. I mean, that would be beneficial to us as well as you guys. We do plan on keeping everything that we build, we keep and we don't sell off, but obviously in the future, you never know what's going to happen. But do you guys have any other questions for me?
Any questions for the agent? Yes.
Kurt, just that you're satisfied that you've got enough parking to, I mean, it looks like we're a pretty high density situation. There's always a concern that you're going to overextend yourself in terms of housing and not leave enough space for parking. You're satisfied you've got enough?
We are. And Garver actually talked to somebody through the city that felt that there was too. We have garages, so we'll actually, each unit will have a garage space as well as a 2 parking spots in the driveway. So we'll be able to accommodate 3 cars without having anything in the street per each side of the duplex. So 6 for the total duplex, 3 parking spots per side.
Okay. Any other questions?
3 parking spots per unit of the duplex. So one duplex would have 6 spaces. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions for the agent? Hearing none, now we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone at Century 2, and I don't believe there is that correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to address the commission on this case? And if there is, yes, Willie, if you can state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
My name is William Stabig. I live at 782 North St. Paul, right across the street from these things. my biggest concern, he says he's got enough parking, but if you go down to 9th Street in St. Paul, where they put all those other duplexes, the street is always packed with cars. And my biggest concern is sticking 5 duplexes in there, in that lot, having the ability to, I guess, park cars without parking on the street, because St. Paul is a through street and there is not much parking on St. Paul. The other thing I had was, I don't mind the duplexes going in there, but I'd like to see 2 to 3 in there instead of 5. There is no, from looking at the site plan, it doesn't look or appear like there's going to be much grass area. If you got families in there with kids, there wouldn't be any place for them to play. And then the other concern that we had, if you go down to the duplexes on 9th and Elm, which is just down the street around the corner from us again, the owners of those duplexes do not provide the trash containers even for, I don't think there's that many duplexes in there. I don't know where all the trash containers for all these buildings would go. So I'd just like to see 2 to 3 duplexes on that land, not 5. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony today. Is there anyone else virtually that would like to address the commission on this? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the agent, and you have 2 minutes, Mr. Richards.
Okay. Yeah, I understand your concerns. We do a lot of these projects, and Kathy can vouch for us. We will have places for the trash containers to keep the place nice. We usually put up a basketball goal somewhere. They will have a backyard. I think it's a 25-foot easement. And we do put in fences, so we will have places for them, for the kids to play. And I'd be happy to give you guys some addresses of some other projects that we've done over the years that you could go see, that they're kept up very nice. And like I said, not only do we build them, but we actually keep them and manage them in-house. So our company doesn't, we're there every aspect, building it, make sure it gets built correctly, and then we manage it. So we have a personal with whoever we rent to and do background checks. And we've been doing this for 20 some years. And Kathy knows several projects that we've done and kind of vouch for us. So hopefully makes you feel a little bit better. And like I said, I'd be happy to give you guys some addresses if you would like to go by and look at them.
I would like that, please.
Okay.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Mr. Foster?
Yes, Mr. Richards, if you look at some of the conditions related to the architectural aspects, garages, entrances, architectural variety, and so forth, are you finding you're able to meet these requirements? Because it seems like it could be a little tough on some of these lots. Are you able to meet these conditions?
Yeah, as of now, I know there's been a few changes, but we've been able to. And we have some that we're building right now in kind of the same situation on same lot sizes that we've been able to take care of everything that you guys have recommended.
Okay, I think these are great conditions that staff has come up with, so I think it really helps the integration of these projects. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Any other questions for the agent? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action.
I make a motion we approve subject to staff comments, including the plating and the overlay.
It's been moved by Mr. McKay,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Bill Johnson to approve per staff comments. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Can I say one more thing?
The case is over with, but yeah, I go.
Okay, I just wanted to, I will get Willie's information from the people we bought the lot from. I just wanted to let him know that I will send him some addresses.
Oh, okay.
For him to, just so I didn't want him to feel left out right there. So,
Okay.
I will get a hold of, I know I get his information from the, buyer, and I will reach out to you, Willie, okay?
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to the next case is zoning 21003 and conditional zoning, or conditions, excuse me, use 21004. And Kathy?
Thank you. This is a zoning application to change the zoning from GC, general commercial, to GI, general industrial. And if you look at the zoning map, you can see the entire area, and the pink area is the GC that's being changed to, they're requesting to be changed to GI. And then the entire lot would have a conditional use for wrecking and salvage, and that's a little bit misleading because what they're doing is storing wrecked vehicles and impounded cars. So it's not going to be a wrecking and salvage like where they dismantle the cars and sell parts and things like that, and it will just be, the vehicles will be stored on the surface. Go to the next slide, please. This kind of gives you an idea more of what a larger idea of what the neighborhood is. Across Broadway to the east is the general industrial, where all the railroad tracks serve those businesses. Between Broadway and North Market is general commercial. There's some grocery stores and a few other things like that, a market, liquor store, that type of thing. And you do have, was given out to you a notebook of information that was prepared by Alan Stein, and I'm sure he'll be on the line later. The general commercial to the west of this subject site is part of Bud Palmer's auction storage, and that is zone GC. And then there again, the brown that you see is zone B multifamily, and it is mostly single family dwellings. I didn't find any duplexes or anything more than a single family dwelling unit in there. So let's see, did we have? So the applicant would have to submit a site plan indicating where the wrecked vehicles would be placed on the lot and where the impounded vehicles would be placed on the lot. And there is, screening is required, and I apologize, that wasn't made specifically clear in the staff report. When you have a conditional use for wrecking and salvage, the property has to be screened either with a screening wall or a screening fence, but it has to be impervious. You can't be able to see through it, and at least 8 feet tall. So on this site, would you go to the next slide, Paul? you can see the aerial. There's an existing storage building on that site right now. I don't know that the applicant is going to reuse that, or if he's going to be replacing that with a smaller office building at this time. Next one, Paul. And there again, here's the land use. It does indicate our future growth map does indicate that that area, they want to try and keep that area residential, but it is abutting commercial and subject to change in that area. So in addition to this specifically addressing the zone change from GC to GI, we are recommending a protective overlay to limit that use to permitted GC uses and this impound storage and the wrecked vehicles only. And within that area, because that's abutting residential, in addition to the screening fence, we are, through this protective overlay, requiring that there be a 15-foot landscape buffer and 9 trees along that property line, and that's 1.5 times the required landscaping. So, and then moving on to, the protective overlay specifically addresses those lots that are zoned GC in the overlay language. And then the conditional use is pretty typical of what we've done before. They will have to submit an updated landscape and site plan. As I said, they won't be able to stack vehicles. It'll all be surface storage. They have to maintain the property so weeds don't grow up around the property, and that they have to maintain a rodent control on site, as we do with wrecking and salvage yards. The employee parking and customer parking shall be required per the Unified Zoning Code, and they will make the property available for on-site inspections. They will have to maintain all local, state, and federal permits necessary for the operation of the wrecked vehicle storage and the impound lot. I don't want to go away from this without mentioning at the District Advisory Board meeting, there was concern voiced about graffiti that would pop up on the solid screening fence. So that was a concern about visual blight. The DAB did vote to recommend this zone change with the protective overlay and the uses that are stipulated in the conditional use. So with that, I will answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Foster?
Jeff, you may have to weigh in on this question. I'm curious, can you take the conditional use aspect of this case when the zoning is not in place? Or do you have to address and take the zoning initially and then come back and take the conditional use?
On the recommendation that's in the agenda packet, it calls out both. It calls out the approving of the zoning and then the conditional use.
I understand that, but my point is, can you take up the conditional use aspect of this if the zoning is not established?
Yeah, Mr. Foster, can you hear me?
Yes.
If the zoning is not approved, the conditional use would also fail because it wouldn't be applicable. I mean, what they're trying to do wouldn't happen unless the zoning was changed, if I'm not mistaken. So there would be no need for a conditional use because they wouldn't be able to do the intended purpose to begin with.
So we need to take up the zoning first and vote on that, correct?
That would be my thought, yes.
Okay.
Jeff, I have a question. In previous cases like this, based on the recommendation to approve the zone change with the protective overlay and then the conditional use with the stipulated conditions, it's just been a single vote. So we've never separated
I guess I'm not sure why this was two separate cases, but I would, if you want to do it that way, I would recommend that a motion be made to consolidate both cases to be able to do that.
Okay. A motion to consolidate the two cases.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to consolidate 4-1 and 4-5.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Nix to consolidate the two cases. Any questions on the motion?
Did we haven't done the.
No, we're just consolidating the two cases.
I understand.
We're not approving, we're just at this point, it's consolidation.
Okay.
All right, yeah, no, we're
Okay.
gonna do the rest of it too.
Okay.
All righty. So, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consolidation of these two cases motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, so now we've consolidated the cases. Now, are there any further questions of staff? Hearing none, do we have the agent or applicant? And if you're online, you have 10 minutes. State your name and address, and you have 10 minutes. Agent or applicant? Bobby Decker or Jared Duncan?
Bud Palmer.
We're looking for the agent or applicant at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I do not see a Bobby Decker or a Jared Duncan listed in the individuals who are participating in the meeting online at this time.
Was the owner in there?
Or the owner, Juan Delgado?
I do not see a Juan Delgado. We have unmuted the callers who are on phone, so if they are there, they could identify themselves, but we do not see those names listed as participating at this time.
Okay.
Move to defer.
It's been moved by Mr. Nix to defer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who was first? Ms. Miles was first. So it's been moved by Mr. Nix to defer, second by Ms. Miles. Mr. Foster?
In past cases similar to this, we've taken the testimony. Should we consider taking the testimony since? If the agent or applicant is not present, it would not accomplish anything at this point.
I would ask Mr. Van Zant his opinion to see how we should proceed. We do have a valid motion to defer.
How does the applicant rebut
That
if we
kinda-
hear testimony?
That kind of goes into the definite maybe category. There's some issues on both sides. In the event someone's present that would not be able to appear later, we have taken, it's okay to take the testimony, but the problem with that, without the agent or applicant here, they wouldn't be able to necessarily hear what's been, or know what's been said to provide for rebuttal for that. So if the people in attendance that wish to speak at that would be willing to, receive a notice at the due time, that would probably be the best way to do it.
Okay. Okay. People that are on here, yes, Mr. Johnson.
Jeff, this is Bill. In this deferral, could it be made known that we need to have an agent or applicant present this, or it just goes away?
Till they reapply.
Jeff, did you hear that question?
Yeah, I think that if I heard it correctly, it's part of the motion to defer would be to require the agent or applicant appear at the next hearing to present, and if they fail to appear, all I heard was go away. You could move to deny it at that time, and then they would again have to wait, a year to reapply or 6 months under same circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Green,
Yes, Mr. Dool?
this isn't necessarily related to this case, but I would suggest, if it's within the guidelines in the future, that we check to see if the agent or applicant are present, and if they're not, we do not waste time hearing the case.
Okay. And I think that's valid. In the virtual world, it's more challenging to figure that one out, but I think it's a very valid point. So we have a motion to defer with a second.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, could you make that
sorry?
deferral to a date
A
certain?
date definite on that deferral?
That those listening wouldn't be able to know when it's going to be reheard?
Yeah, and that was Mr. McKay's point. Do we want to say 30 days, 2 weeks? What about the notification procedures and all?
Well, if we set it with a date certain, it's my understanding, if we set it, defer it to a date with a date certain, my understanding is that we don't have to advertise. And I can provide you with the dates, the next dates. I've got the calendar pulled up.
Thank you very much.
So we have, today's date, of course, is March 4th, March 18th, April 8th. So March 18th, April 8th, April 22nd are the next 3 meetings.
There's April 8th and then the 25th?
22nd.
22nd.
So the 18th,
Yeah, 22nd, yes.
22nd.
14 and 8, math's tough.
It's okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll include that in my motion, that whatever a month works out to, because I don't understand the math either,
4/8.
but whatever that date is.
4/8,
Okay,
yeah, April 8th.
okay.
Okay, and is that okay for the person who seconded it? And Mr. Foster?
I want to follow up on what Mr. Van Zant said. As we were discussing, there was a pop-up here that Mr. Stein had some information, and he's one of the public folks that Mr. Van Zant said we ought to check with. So I would ask if we could hear what Mr. Stein has to provide input for.
Well, yes, Mr. Stein, are you available to be able to come back on April 8th when we are proposing to rehear this? Mr. Stein?
He was muted, but now he is unmuted.
Love this virtual world.
I'm waiting to see if he types out a message, but unfortunately, we're not hearing anything, and nor do I see him showing up on the cameras.
Okay, well, we have yes, Mr. Johnson.
I would think that if I was in opposing of this, and there's a possibility they don't show up in a month, you don't need to say nothing. So I would think that within a month's time, they can arrange a
Well,
schedule.
I'm comfortable with the deferral. I just want to make sure process-wise, we give every chance for someone who's come
Yeah,
here
I'm just
today
saying.
to.
Yeah.
If I was, maybe that's why I left.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, a letter will go out today to all of the people that I've had contact with either by phone or through email.
Okay.
And potentially we could, I don't know how big this notification area was, but when the letter goes out, it will state that the item was deferred and will be reheard on April 8th.
Okay,
He
thank
says
you.
he's here.
So, we've got, okay, he's going, Mr. Stein is here and would like to attend the next meeting. So, we have the motion on the floor to defer till the April 8th meeting. It has been seconded. Any other discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
I'd like to
McKay.
recommend to this commission that if you haven't been up there to look at this area, you ought to drive up there around and look at it,
Okay,
if you haven't done it, because it's, the pictures we got, no disrespect to the staff, but there's a lot more around there than meets the eye. You need to take a look at it.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
I'm scared too.
Okay, moving on to the non-public hearing items. We've got the proposed wind and solar updates to the Uniform Zoning Code.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Scott Wadle from the Planning Department. This item before you is an item for your consideration. What we're asking is for you to endorse a review and coming back to you with possible proposed updates to the zoning code. What this is about is concerns our definition of minor utility and major utility and the required conditions for renewable energy systems. What we have discovered through the course of having these in place is through 2020 and early part of this year is that our definitions could use some adjustments. We've had some projects that we've been contacted about that don't fit neatly into either of those two categories. So we would just like to simply revisit it, take a look at it and come back to you. But before we do any efforts on revisions or updates to the zoning code, we want to make sure that we've at least got your agreement to initiate that process. And that's what we're here today to do. Now, quick note on this one is that we are not intending to revisit the section that prohibits all wind energy conversion systems within the unincorporated portion of Sedgwick County and the city of Wichita. We do not intend to revisit that. We are simply looking at the definition of what fits utility minor and what fits utility major, and then what the required conditions are. And primarily, that will fall on solar power is what we're looking at. So with that, the staff recommendation is that you endorse the proposed efforts to review and develop proposals for updates to the Unified Zoning Code related to renewable energy systems. Thank you.
I move that we approve the staff recommendation.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Green, second by Mr. Johnson to take the staff recommendation. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Any other items before the commission? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
What do we do with these?